Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last day of reInvent, and welcome to the session. My name is Pavan Patel, and I'm a product manager with AWS. I'll be co-presenting this session with my colleague, Ed Laura, who is a solutions architect with AWS. And we are here and excited to tell you about a new capability we launched on Tuesday that enables customers and partners to migrate data on physical tapes to AWS. So if you're managing physical tapes for long-term data retention use, we'll tell you how you can use this new capability to stop managing physical tape data, migrate all that data to AWS, and eliminate your infrastructure costs. From an agenda perspective, this is how it will go. I will talk about some of the key customer challenges. So these are the customer challenges that we heard from our customers. Then we'll talk about the new solution or the new capability that we launched and how it addresses the customer challenges. We'll talk about the benefits of using the new solution for tape migration. We'll talk about how it works. We'll give you some details about this new capability, and then Ed is going to go into demo and take us to the rest of the presentation. And we'll do Q&A at the end. So let's take a look at how customers did backup and archive before the cloud, right? Before the cloud, customers, if they wanted to back up their data, they put it on the local disk storage or backup appliances. And then as data aged, they tiered that data to physical tapes, and then they send the tapes for storage in the warehouse. With the availability of cloud, customers can now use Amazon's S3 storage classes, such as S3 Glacier, Flexible Retrieval, or S3 Glacier Deep Archive to store that data in the cloud. However, customers still have a lot of data that's sitting on tapes. And as they exit the data centers or as they consolidate their data centers, they have a need to move that data and bring it along with them to the cloud as they continue in their cloud journey. As to why, let's take a look at that next. So managing physical tapes is a challenging aspect. It's kind of expensive, and the tapes are also inaccessible. With respect to expensive, customers have to maintain the physical tape libraries. They have to maintain the physical tapes. They have to purchase new tapes. They have to purchase the cleaning tapes to clean their tape drives. They also have to store these physical tapes in warehouses, which consumes their valuable floor space and adds to power and cooling costs. Customers also have to migrate data from older generation of physical tapes to newer generation of physical tapes every few years. In addition, when data is stored on tapes, that data is not easily accessible. Many customers have told us that when they had to recall the tapes, they either sometimes got the wrong tape, and even when they got the right tapes back, they had CRC errors when they actually loaded the tape in the tape library. So as customers look to migrate their physical tape data to the cloud, there are several options that they have. Option one is to do nothing, let the tapes expire, but this is not a feasible option as many customers need to retain the data for compliance purposes, and many of the customers are storing these tapes for forever or for many years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. The other aspect is move data to newer generation of physical tapes, but then customers have to migrate from one generation of tape to next generation of tape every few years. And with the newer tapes, they are only backwards compatible by one generation. In the past, those tapes used to be N-2 compatible. With the newer tapes, it's only N-1 compatible. So you have to jump through generations in order for you to get to the most recent tape generation. And the other option is to move data to the cloud, but many customers have told us that they don't have sufficient network bandwidth. They operate in challenging network environments. Because this data is petabyte scale, it's very hard for them to migrate the data over the network. So none of these options are feasible options. And so customers approached AWS. Customers approached AWS for a solution, and they told us that they had certain requirements for this new solution. They told us that they wanted to maintain their tape-based workflows. That is, even when they migrate the tape-based data to the cloud, they did not want to change their workflows. They wanted to migrate the data in an offline fashion to AWS. They wanted to maintain compatibility with their existing backup applications. They wanted to access the data online. So once the data is in the cloud, they wanted to access that data compared to how they access the data on physical tapes. They wanted to store this data in the cloud in a cost-effective fashion. They wanted durable, secure, reliable, highly available storage. And they also wanted a secure method for migrating this tape data to AWS. To address these customer and partner needs, on Tuesday, we launched a new solution that allows our customers and partners to migrate tape-based data to AWS in an offline fashion and while maintaining their existing workflows. This is the first of its kind capability which combines two of our services, AWS Snowball and AWS Storage Gateway's Tape Gateway, to provide that solution that customers are looking for tape data migration. So if you're not familiar with Snowball, Snowball is an offline data transfer service with built-in security and integrity features. So this is a device that you get from AWS, and you put your data on it, and you ship it back to AWS. AWS will then ingest data from that device and put it into the storage service that you ask for. And then you can access that data online. So what we have done is we have combined two of our services, AWS Snowball and Tape Gateway, which is a virtual tape library offering from AWS, which provides virtual tapes through iSCSI interface. We have combined these two services to provide an integrated appliance-like experience to customers and partners. So everything from ordering the device to bringing it on site, ingesting the data, shipping it back, getting that data ingested into AWS is very simple and much easier now. So why choose a Snowball with Tape Gateway, or why choose this new capability? And these are the benefits of using this solution. The first is, of course, offline migration. So using this new capability, customers can import petabytes of tape data to AWS. And within AWS, they can use either S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval, which is a new name for what was formerly known as Amazon S3 Glacier, or S3 Glacier Deep Archive storage classes. With this new solution, when you copy data from your backup application to virtual tapes on the Snowball, that data is stored locally on the Snowball. And the internet connection that you use is only utilized for management traffic. It also helps you reduce cost. As I was mentioning earlier, customers pay for physical tape data infrastructure, and all of those costs can be reallocated to the business priorities now. Customers can maintain their workflows, so their tape-based workflows and their tape data formats. With the new capability, customers can just copy data from a physical tape to a virtual tape. Essentially, they can clone the data from a physical tape to virtual tape without ever actually restoring that data. And finally, you get online access to your long-term data retention, data that you had that you were storing for long-term retention needs. And once your data is in AWS, you can use Tape Gateway over running over a virtual machine or a hardware appliance, or even in EC2 to access their data. So besides customers, we have several launch partners as well who are equally excited about using this capability for their data migration needs. So partner TapeArc based in Australia helps customers virtualize their tape data. And with this new solution, they can use this capability to help customers migrate their data. So they can go to the customer site and they can use the Snowball to ingest data, because many customers might have requirements to not send their tapes over to another partner for data sovereignty or regulation reasons. Another partner based in UK called Transact Technology is equally excited about using this new capability as another business tool that they can offer to their customers for migrating data. And another partner, Iron Mountain, is also excited about using this capability in conjunction with the data restoration and migration service offering that they have to help customers retire their tape infrastructure and use the AWS cloud as the go-forward storage for their long-term retention data. So with respect to how it works, I'll just cover a high-level overview here because Ed is going to go into a lot more detail later on. But how it works is essentially if you start here on the left-hand side, you start with AWS Console. You go to AWS Console and you order the Snowball Edge device, which helps you import the tape data. Once the Snowball Edge device arrives at your site, you power it on, you connect it to the network, you unlock it, and you start the tape gateway service on it. As I was mentioning earlier, this is an integrated appliance experience, which makes it very easy for you to just have tape gateway running on the Snowball Edge device itself. Once the tape gateway is started, you can then activate the gateway and create virtual tapes on the Snowball. So from the Snowball, AWS will present 10 tape drives and 1 media changer, and you can create virtual tapes and present those to your backup application. Then you can use the backup application functionality to clone the data from physical tapes to virtual tapes. And once the device has been filled up, you send it back to AWS. AWS will then ingest that data into S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval or S3 Glacier Deep Archive and show it to you as virtual tapes from the AWS Storage Gateway console. So you'll be able to see all of your tapes listed by the barcode, the status of the tapes when it was ingested, and so forth. So you may have a question as to, okay, it's good that I can migrate this data to AWS. How can I access this data? How can I access these virtual tapes? And for that, what you can do is you can access those tapes through Tape Gateway. So a Tape Gateway, if it's running on a virtual machine or a hardware appliance, you can access those tapes through that Tape Gateway and present it to the backup application and recover or restore that data. You can also use Tape Gateway running on an EC2 instance, especially if there's ability for you to run the backup application within EC2 or within AWS, then you can also use the Tape Gateway running on an EC2 instance. So this here is a list of all the popular backup applications that we support. And many of these backup applications have tape cloning feature, or it's also called media pool functionality, which allows you to simply clone that data from a physical tape to a virtual tape. So what you will do is you will load the tape in the physical tape library, and you present that to the backup application. You will have a virtual tape library presented from the Snowball to your backup application as well. And then backup application can simply clone the data from a physical tape to a virtual tape. And this is especially helpful because many customers don't want to restore the data to its original form because they are using this data for compliance purposes. And instead of storing on physical tapes, they just want to use cloud as a storage, so they don't have to worry about managing the physical tapes or migrating from one gen of physical tapes to the next generation ever. So as I was mentioning earlier, we had certain customer requirements, and what we have done with the new capability that I just mentioned, we have delivered all those requirements that customers had for a new solution, including maintaining existing tape-based workflows, doing offline migration of data to AWS, maintaining compatibility with the existing backup application, and utilizing cost-effective cloud storage, which is highly durable, reliable, and available, as well as providing a secure tape migration capability using Snowball. With respect to some of the details about this new capability, so on a single Snowball Edge device, and within that we particularly use or support Snowball Edge Storage Optimized device. So that device supports 80 terabyte usable capacity. So that's the maximum amount of data you can pack onto a single Snowball Edge device at any one point in time. The maximum size of a tape, a virtual tape that you can create on that Snowball is 5 terabyte. It can range from 100 gigabytes to 5 terabyte. And with respect to how much do you pay for using the service, and there are two aspects there. The first is the job fee, which is for using the Snowball at your site. You are allowed to keep the Snowball at your site for 10 days for a certain job fee. If you need to keep the Snowball device at your site for longer than 10 days, there is a per day additional charge after that. And then the second aspect is once your data is in AWS, depending on which storage class it is stored in, is it S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval or S3 Glacier Deep Archive, you'll be charged for consuming or using the storage for storing that data in AWS. And then with respect to availability, this capability is available in the 4 US regions, in London, Dublin, and Frankfurt in Europe, and in Sydney in Australia. So this here is offering just some guidance on when to use online and when to use offline tape migration capability. Because we do have the tape gateway that I mentioned earlier. If you're running that tape gateway on a virtual machine or a hardware appliance, you can migrate data using your network connection to AWS. And with the new capability that I just talked about, you can migrate data in offline fashion to AWS. So the cells here you can see in the white are more applicable for using this new capability for offline migration, and use tape gateway, especially if you have plenty of bandwidth. Now, I would say that this is not a binary choice, so you can use both at the same time as well, especially if you have tight timelines that you need to exit the data center or maintenance contract is expiring. You can use both these solutions in combination to migrate your data to AWS. With that being said, I will hand it over now to Ed, who will show a demo as well as take you through the remainder of the presentation.
All right. Thanks, Bhavin. Hey, everyone. So the demo will walk you through the workflow end-to-end experience that you would have as a customer. And going back to the how it works diagram, those steps that Bhavin laid out, we're going to start in the Snow Family Console. That's where we're going to order our job. So when we go into the console, you've got 4 options. You'll see our new option, and this shows the tight integration between the Snow and the tape gateway, that 4th option to import your virtual tapes into AWS Storage Gateway. We've limited the options to the Snowball Edge Storage Optimized device, where you get 80 terabytes of usable capacity. We're going to set our encryption, use KMS. And after entering our shipping details, We're going to say, where the device is going to be sent to, which is where your backup application would be in your data center somewhere. You're going to get that device about 4 to 6 business days, and then from there you have 10 days to essentially migrate your data. Next thing we're going to do, that device arrives, we're going to power it on, we're going to connect it to our network, and then connect it to our backup application and do some basic configuration. And for those of you who haven't seen a Snowball Edge device, here's a quick picture here. Looks just like a tower server. It's ruggedized. It's got the handles. It's got the shipping label built into it as well, which helps actually with shipping it back. It's nice and easy. So once we get that device, we're going to go ahead and power it on, get it hooked up again to our network, and then we're going to go in, and we're going to manage and configure this device through AWS OpsHub, which would be an application you download, install on your client machine, your Windows, Mac OS device. First thing we'll do, we're going to sign in to that local device. We're going to say it's a Snowball Edge device. We're going to give that device an IP address and an unlock code. This unlock code is something you would download from the Snow console. Essentially, the device is encrypted, data at rest. We need to unlock those encrypted drives, as well as having a manifest file. So our device is now unlocked. We're going to give a profile name, go back to our the console here, and we've now got an online device. Here you can see if you had multiple devices, they would all show up within OpsHub. When we now have that device and we're in our main console within OpsHub, you can see again that tight integration between Snow and Tape Gateway Service. It's running as a service on the device. So we're simply just going to start that service, and we're going to take it from the deactivated state into the started state. Pretty simple. We're going to give that, choose our virtual network interface for the Tape Gateway Service, which is going to be that IP address that you're going to connect via iSCSI to your backup application. Go ahead and start the service. We get the green arrow active, and right within, we've got some modules within there to transfer that tape data, and that's going to link us directly to our next step, which is going to go to the AWS Storage Gateway console to activate a tape gateway. And if you haven't activated a tape gateway before, we'll walk you through that workflow as well, where it's going to take us directly in. You'll see there's a new hardware platform. All of our existing platforms, still remain, including our 1U hardware appliance. So this is a Snowball Edge device. We're going to choose a public endpoint. No data is traveling over to this public endpoint. This is just for management traffic so that we can go into our AWS console in the cloud, create our tapes, and it'll send all of that information back down to that device on site. We're going to put in the IP address. That'll be the local IP address that we configured earlier for that Snow device. You can also use an activation key. That was a feature that we released last year sometime. So if you don't want to use the IP address, you can actually log into the console of that Snow device and to the actual tape gateway and retrieve an activation code similar to how you would do with some other software with activation keys. We're going to choose our gateway settings, give it a name, choose our time zone. This will help with our tapes that we create, knowing when we created them, when they get archived, etc. Choose our backup application. Again, we support all the major backup vendors that are out there today. And then the tape drive type. And we're going to go ahead and activate. Choose our logging. By default, it's disabled, but certainly recommend enabling logging. Review, finish. We've now got our gateway activated. That gateway is available. We have a new object inside of our storage gateway console, which is that gateway. And you can see the gateway type is that new type for Snow. That tape gateway, all the same characteristics you would have with the typical online tape gateway, whether it was deployed as a virtual machine or a hardware appliance or now on a Snow device. It's got the media changer. It's got 10 tape drives. and we can go ahead and create up to 1,500 tapes for that device. So, next thing we're going to do, now that we have our gateway created, is actually go ahead and create those tapes. That's going to allow us to present it and inventory that within our backup application and start writing data. Simply go in, we're going to create the tape type, worm or standard, number of tapes, capacity, again up to 5 terabytes is minimum 100 gigabyte. Give that barcode. Here we're just going to do ARC for archive, and we're going to choose our pool as well. And oftentimes we've got customers, these are tapes, physical tapes sitting in a warehouse somewhere. We just need to keep them for compliance. We want to get them into the lowest cost storage in the cloud that we can. Glacier Deep Archive, $1 per terabyte per month, just about, depending on the region. Great way to save that data. So, at this point, we've now got our Snow device activated, our gateways activated. We're ready to go into our backup application. And as Bob had mentioned, each of the major backup vendors that we have, IBM Spectrum Protect, formerly TSM, Veritas NetBackup, Veeam, these backup software have capabilities to simply clone one of your old LTO1, LTO2 tapes to either a newer form factor of physical tape, or now what we're going to be doing, which is actually cloning them to virtual tapes, getting that up into Glacier Deep Archive. Once we clone our data, the data is now on those tapes. They're living on that local Snow device, right? So we need a way to make sure that those tapes are ready to go, and we're going to have to power down that device in the proper fashion so that we can actually send that device back to AWS, where the Snow team will work directly with the tape gateway team. There's integration there to get all those tapes loaded into your account. So you'll see there's a new status. This is typically within your backup software. There's export or a checkout or some sort of function within there to say that those tapes are ready to be pulled out of the slots and archived, and that is cataloged in your backup software, and we note that within our console as well, because we know that it's ready to be archived and sent to the archive. So in transit to VTS, we're our virtual tape shelf. So now I know my tapes are in a good state. That device is ready to be powered down. What do? I'm going to go in. I'm going to just simply hit stop that tape gateway service. That's going to take down the tape gateway running on that Snowball Edge device, put the Snowball Edge device into a state where I can simply go up, press the power button. That e-ink shipping label is going to automatically populate with the shipping instructions to now send that device right back to AWS, where the import will be done on your behalf. Now we're done. So again, you have those 10 days to clone your data if you need additional days. Oftentimes, we're working with partners and organizations, or maybe have interns or some sort of resources that are managing this actual migration. There's many logistics when you have physical tapes, right? And that's one of the big reasons and drivers why we want to archive and digitize and virtualize all of those physical tapes into a standard medium, get them into the cloud for cheap, durable storage in the cloud. So what are the key takeaways? Oftentimes customers, they've got an existing workflow, so net new data that's coming in being backed up in one of the mediums that they want to store the data in. Of course, is typically disk, but you also may want tape as a separate medium, protection from things like ransomware, or you have compliance requirements, and you still need that data to go to some sort of tape format and get off-site. So I see customers with large petabyte scale tape workflows that there's phase one, which is I can cut over to virtual tapes immediately, and I can use an online tape gateway today that we have to do that, and we can do that pretty much instantaneously. We simply attach a tape gateway in line with all, so my backup application is going to have both the physical tape library and a virtual tape library side by side. I simply go into each of my jobs and I switch to using virtual tapes instead of the physical tape library. That can help me eliminate net new backups that are going to physical tape today. But then I've got my old bulk archive of physical tape sitting in a warehouse or sitting on site somewhere in the library or a physical tape shelf. And I've got those maintenance contracts for the physical tape libraries, et cetera, that I don't want to keep and maintain, because if I am required to go restore from an LTO1 or an LTO2 tape, how do I do that? And I need to maintain not only this generation of physical tape infrastructure, but maybe previous generations as well. So to clean all that up, standardize it, have a central location, that phase 2, or they can be done in parallel, phase 1 and phase 2, we can start migrating this in an offline fashion. And the main driver here is customers don't want to consume all of their network bandwidth with doing this big bulk migration. We may be talking about tens of thousands of tapes, if not hundreds of thousands of tapes, and tens of petabytes of data, or hundreds of petabytes of data. There's a lot of physical tape archive out there, and to just get it standardized and virtualized, offline and offline methods are now available, and we're really excited about that. We've seen a huge resurgence of tape this year, and I expect that to continue into the future. Better durability, security, and restore. That device is encrypted, so your tapes that you're copying over, encrypted in transit and at rest in the cloud and on that Snow device. And we're going to reduce our infrastructure costs. Maybe close out a data center, get rid of that offsite warehouse location, whatever the case may be. How can you get started? Of course, we've got free training classes, demos, our product page. All of our storage gateway product pages are a great place to stay up to date with what we've released recently, new blog content, demos, etc., customer stories, all within our public product pages, and user guide to how to actually implement this device. You can always go right to our console, start up a POC. It's always easy to get a nice online tape gateway deployed as a virtual machine. If you have virtual infrastructure, we have our hardware appliance that you can order if you need to or want to separate out your backup infrastructure from your maybe virtualization infrastructure in production. And now we've got our Snowball Edge device as well that can help you. If you need help, of course, many ways to do that. Our AWS support, open a ticket as well. Those guys are great. All right. Well, thank you, folks. That's what we've got for today. Bhavin, maybe if you want to come up, and we're open to questions if anybody